Breaking news, as we are learning now that President Trump is planning to attend Pete Hegseth's meeting of the top military generals on Tuesday in Virginia. Trump has now decided to attend this meeting, which he knew nothing about when asked about it last week by reporters. He didn't know it had been scheduled, but he thought it was good that they were doing it, and that's pretty much it. But he didn't know that it was happening when asked. Now he's planning to attend it, and we still don't know exactly what it's about. It's being described as a pep rally for the top military brass, and Hegseth is supposed to go over the new standards for military personnel under the reinvented Department of Defense that they are now calling the Department of War. Sources are telling both the Washington Post and CNN that this whole meeting was just Pete Hegseth's idea, and he later informed the White House about it. That's why Trump was caught off guard and didn't really know about it when asked last week. Critics have been saying this is a giant waste of money to fly all these military generals to Virginia and have all our top leadership in one place at the same time. And it's no surprise, though, that they are doing this. All this administration does is waste money. They don't care. That's the latest update on this. We'll see what happens on Tuesday. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
We have another mass pew-pewing at a Mormon church in Michigan.
I'm at the scene of a giant fire happening at a church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. I talked to someone who just got here from South America. It's his first week in the U.S., went to church with his mom. His mom is still in the building, and he got out. From what I'm hearing on the ground, a man drove his vehicle into the church and then started shooting and even shot a little girl in the back, and she is at the hospital right now. The shooter has been neutralized, but that's all I know at the moment. Everyone within a 30-minute radius has responded to the...
This isn't the only incident that happened, all right? There was another one that happened in North Carolina.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty in Los Angeles. A manhunt is currently underway after a gunman opened fire on a dockside restaurant in Southport, North Carolina. At least 3 people were killed, 8 others are hurt. This happened around 9:30 last night at the American Fish Company. That's about 40 miles south of the South Carolina border. Police say a boat pulled up to the restaurant, fired multiple shots, and took off. A person of interest is being questioned.
When is America going to wake up and come to their senses about what's going on? We have a serious issue in this country. And honestly, I don't want to hear about what side of the aisle the person belonged to. All right. But even though I've just said that, watch. In another attempt to gaslight the American people and to distract us from the multiple failures of the current administration, watch. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, and maybe even Elon Musk will be amplifying discord on the internet and trying to blame the left and the Democrats. Anyone that keeps falling for this, something's really wrong with you at this point, because it's not that at all. And you got to start asking yourself, what is the Trump administration really doing about this situation besides playing the blame game? Because you know what blame stands for, right? Been lying and making excuses.
When it comes to Pete Hegseth's summoning of the generals, he and everyone at the Department of War know exactly what type of security risk this poses, not just at the meeting itself, but at every place around the world that those generals had to abandon in order to attend this meeting. They understand what they're doing. Regardless of the actual reason for the meeting, it's being said that Pete Hegseth is saying that it's better optics to have a room full of people with stars on their shoulders. Makes for better pictures, better propaganda material. So they're gathering every top-ranking military personnel in one room, all so that he can just give some kind of pep rally to these generals and tell them how he's going to be running things differently from here on out. The president just told the Pentagon to use full force if necessary against citizens in Portland, Oregon. We have No King's Day Part 2 coming up mid-October. So it's of course very possible that this meeting is nothing more than him drawing a line in the sand with his golden sword and saying things are about to get real around here and you can either be with us or against us. But I don't know. They might be perpetually drunk. They might be insane. They might be evil, but they're not naive. They understand what it means to call in every high-ranking U.S. military general in one room at the same time and broadcast it to the entire world. To the entire world? No, I'm not buying it. You're going to let the media talk ad nauseum about this meeting, where it's taking place and who's going to be there. You're going to let international news media pick up on this too. You're going to let all your enemies know where you're all going to be and what time and what location. We all know that this administration doesn't show up to a single goddamn press conference on time. Usually they're like an hour late. I don't know, wouldn't it just be so funny if Hegseth and anybody else involved with the Trump administration just conveniently showed up late, held up on the tarmac somehow, miraculously, and then something happened? Wouldn't that be crazy? So there was another mass shooting today, this time in a church. You know, and we always want to go and try to find who's to blame and what's to blame as soon as this happens. But at this point, in September of 2025, every single time we're going to see an act of violence happen in this country, from now on, it's going to be blamed on the left, and we are going to be more and more in danger of our rights being taken away, of our liberty being taken away. Every single time an act of violence happens in this country now, from now on, we are getting closer and closer to the federal government individually targeting us, labeling us. For the president, for Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, everyone on the right, even your mama and daddy and uncle, your cousin, your brother and sister, all of them that voted for Donald Trump, they all hear what happened today and have no need for any evidence or no need to hear from local or federal authorities. They already know that it's the left in their mind. And because you are on the left, they are blaming you for this. Every time someone decides to bring an assault rifle in public and do this, those people that were supposed to love and care about you your entire life do not trust you. They think you're a terrorist. And they, if somebody came knocking on your door with an FBI badge and a set of handcuffs, they would be glad to see you hauled off. They don't need evidence. They don't need to hear shit. They already have their mind made up. And we all just heard about this less than an hour ago. I just heard about it 5 minutes ago. I don't say this very often on this app, but I am afraid. I am terrified right now. What am I supposed to do with my 18-month-old son? Everywhere feels like a war zone. How am I supposed to take him out into the world? Their goal is to keep us inside the house and away so that they can do whatever the fuck they want to this country. It doesn't matter who did it today and why they did it. Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, they all said it themselves. They're ready to eliminate the radical left. That's you. That's me. That's all of us. It doesn't matter if you've been sitting at the house or going to work every day, minding your damn business. I really hope that you are not following me for solutions to this problem, because I don't know what the fuck we're supposed to do right now. What are we supposed to do right now?
That meeting of the hundreds of generals coming to Washington just got a heck of a lot creepier now that Donald Trump is going. Big surprise here. Donald Trump is going to show up. He just changed his mind, supposedly, although, honestly, I think he had planned to go all along. The meeting of generals, you may recall, is Secretary Hegseth, the defense secretary, the Fox News guy, wanted pretty much every American general and admiral to show up in Washington in a meeting from all over the world. These guys are having to come from submarines, from boats. It's costing millions of dollars and a big PITA for these guys. Supposedly, they claimed, I think it's total BS, they claimed they were going to talk to them about hygiene and grooming and the warrior ethos and how now they need to be warriors, whereas before they weren't warriors, I guess. Generals are not going to like that crap. I think those were leaks to make Hegseth look bad. What was hidden in one of the articles was Hegseth was going to tell them, we all need to row in the same direction or your career advancement is in jeopardy. Hegseth had already planned on threatening them that whatever Trump does, you better go along with it and you may not like it, right? We know what Trump is thinking. Well, now Trump himself is going, well, considering Trump is on a rampage of political vengeance and claiming that he's going to use the full force of the military in American cities like Portland, which made people think he literally was giving them orders to open fire on civilians, what's he going to say to 800 generals assembled in a room together? This is when it gets very dangerous for our democracy. This is when America's generals need to stand up and reaffirm the fact that they did not swear allegiance to Donald Trump. They swore allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. And this is not Germany of 1933, 1934, where suddenly that allegiance changed to the Fuhrer. So let's hope our generals toe the line, stick to defending democracy. But Donald Trump is going to cross another line, folks, and we better be prepared for this.
To anybody who is thinking that they should show MAGA some grace and compassion and welcome them into the fold, because they are all over these internets talking about how they regret their vote. This isn't what they voted for. This isn't what they signed up for. And all of this current uproar over the Epstein files, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to YouTube, and I want you to find video footage of those Klan meetings that they called campaign rallies from 2024. And I want you to listen not only to the felon in chief, but to his panel of speakers that he had at those rallies, including Muskrat. And I want you to hear all of the putrid, vitriolic, racist, misogynist, evil, hateful speech that was spewed at those Klan meetings. Republican voters, MAGA voters, they knew what they were voting for. And they know now. But like myself and many other creators on here who are pointing out, the only reason that they are now talking about, oh, I regret my vote, this isn't what I voted for. It's because, as I say, the fire that they set, that they thought would consume others, has now turned into a wildfire and is burning their ass. That is the only reason. Personally, I believe that just as there are physical laws that govern our universe, the science studies, I also believe that there are spiritual laws that govern the universe as well. And a common belief among many spiritual belief systems is the law of sowing and reaping. That's Christianity, karma, and the fact that the energy that you put out into the universe, sooner or later, you will get it back. And white America has put out a lot of evil bullshit since the founding of this nation, when they created the racial caste system and called themselves white and called enslaved Africans black as a justification for the dehumanization of my ancestors. And it has been a long time coming. And now they are beginning to feel it. And I do believe that it is just the beginning. I, for one, am not welcoming them back into the fold. I do not believe they have seen the light and have found a shred of human decency and morality. They get no compassion or grace or sympathy or empathy from me. And I will never forget how they continuously voted to put their hatred and their comfort and their white supremacy in power. And now that the felon in chief is in power this time, I hope you all realize he doesn't intend on going anywhere. And once his time passes, the next proxy is waiting in the wings, whether it be J.D. Vance or someone else. So I just want everyone to bear that in mind.
Joe Biden, can you imagine the cries and the screams if Joe Biden, when he was president, were to have sent troops into Dallas, into Miami, into Shreveport? What? Yes, exactly. Can you imagine the cries and the screams that if Joe Biden refused to meet and try to avert a shutdown with other officials, which he would always meet with the other side? Can you imagine the cries and the screams from Fox? I mean, just look at Fox the other day when the escalator in the United Nations stopped. Oh my God, it stopped. It shuddered. He lunged. What? They had to walk up an escalator. It didn't hurt them. Average people do it all the time. You know, the same thing with the difference in Melissa Hartman and the Minnesota lawmaker that was unalived, and John Hoffman, the state senator from Minnesota that was used with a PEW, but he and his wife survived, versus what happened with CK. Can you imagine the difference? I mean, Mike Lee's making jokes about it, thinking it's funny. Donald Trump says, Melissa, who was this? You know good and well he knew who it was. It's all so hypocritical. The same thing, whether it's inflation. Can you imagine if Biden did these tariffs and shut down the economy and caused companies to shut down and escalate prices? They complained over everything that was as a result of COVID. That was Donald Trump's fault. And I'm sure the shutdown coming, if it does happen next week, they'll blame that on Biden too. It's just so ironic that MAGA only sees everything one way and they're completely blind the other way. And so is Fox News. But there you have it. Just two different worlds. They want to deny the facts and the truth always. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my burned out light bulbs. Oh, if we had Biden back versus what we have now. What a great place it would be, unlike the one we have. Democracy then versus dictatorship now.
We have breaking news right now. Over the past 24 hours, the United States of America has been gripped with multiple mass shootings, some of which you may never hear from the mainstream media, but several Americans are dead this afternoon, and the latest mass shooting, probably the worst of them yet. The latest one has occurred at the Grand Blanc Township Church, about 50 miles north of Detroit, Michigan, where 2 people are now dead, 9 others injured, and potentially a lot more after a gunman rammed into the side of a church building, causing it to catch on fire, then entered the building, proceeded to open fire. 2 people are dead, 9 other injured, according to local authorities. Hundreds of people were attending the church service this morning, and as a result, many are now injured. And here is the worst part about it. Right now, we still don't know the full death toll, the full injured toll, because the shooting, and as a result of the ramming to the side of the building, the church caught on fire. And officials are scared that more individuals may be trapped within the building, and the true number of injured and killed, no one knows. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, at least 3 dead and 5 injured in a shooting at a North Carolina waterfront bar, according to local authorities in Southport, North Carolina, near the town of Oak Island. This is a horrific, horrific shooting where overnight a shooter opened fire into a crowd of patrons at the Southport establishment, killing 3 people, injuring 5 others. A shooter has been caught, faces first-degree murder charges, and more. 2 shootings in a span of 24 hours, and that's not all. In New Orleans, Louisiana, 1 person has been killed and 3 others injured in an overnight shooting on Bourbon Street at around 2:22 a.m. when gunfire broke out on the 100 block of Bourbon Street. When they arrived, police officers found 3 victims, 2 women and 1 man. One of the women was pronounced dead at the scene. The other woman and man were taken to a local hospital for more observation. Gun violence in America is normal. It happens almost every day, and I can't believe as a reporter I am saying that, because we have normalized mass shootings, we have normalized gun violence in America, and right now in this moment, the United States of America once again has more mass shootings than days in the year. And it's only going to continue, because gun violence does not impact just one community or one political party. Gun violence impacts everyone, whether you are, no matter what race you are, no matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, no matter whether you live in rural or urban, no matter whether you are a man or a woman, young or old, gun violence impacts everyone in communities across the country. And in this moment, it is on the media's job to stand up and speak out and say that this is not okay, that America has an epidemic of gun violence that grips communities, takes lives far too soon every single day. And in the past 24 hours, we've had 3 mass shootings, from New Orleans to North Carolina to now Michigan, where several Americans have died and over a dozen injured. Before I continue, please consider supporting my work by subscribing today or We're sending a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas. The news never stops, and neither will I. So we have these mass shootings in the United States of America, and these communities are now reeling in ways, folks, that truly, truly are tragic. But that's not all. That's not all the news that we have to cover today. According to reports, Donald Trump will be attending the meeting with top generals and admirals in Quantico, Virginia, with Secretary Pete Hegseth, where Hegseth plans on addressing the generals and calling on a warrior-like mentality for them. According to reports from the Washington Post, this has caused significant security concerns. As Donald Trump is the president, adding increased security, he will be in one place at the same time as almost the entire United States military senior apparatus. In New York, Zohran Mamdani remains on track to become the next mayor. But today, Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York City, decided to drop out from the race. And as a result, it will be a three-person race. You have Republican Curtis Sliwa, Democrat Zohran Mamdani, and Independent Andrew Cuomo. Zohran Mamdani is the Democratic nominee. Cuomo was previously beaten by Mamdani in the mayoral primary for the Democratic primary earlier this year. And folks, it wasn't a close race. And all polls still suggest that Mamdani is on track for a comfortable victory, essentially. Meanwhile, we are now 2 days away from a government shutdown. Donald Trump is expected to meet with top congressional leaders, including Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries on the Democratic side, John Thune and Speaker Mike Johnson on the Republican side. They will meet in the coming day or two ahead of the government funding deadline, which is September 30th. If the government shuts down, here's what you should expect. There will be mass furloughs across the federal government as non-essential employees will lose their job, at least temporarily. But the Trump administration says that there will be mass firings as well, which means that any agency that is not fully funded, any department, could see mass firings occur as the Trump administration is using the government shutdown as a basis to lay off employees across the federal government, tens of thousands of employees. Meanwhile, national parks and other critical government services may be disrupted as a result of the shutdown. If you are traveling during a government shutdown, expect longer wait times at an airport. While TSA is essential, there will be less agents and therefore longer wait times. As the government shutdown goes on, if it goes on for too long, social services like Medicare and Social Security could potentially be disrupted or impacted if the government is shut down for an elongated period of time. Military families will not receive pay as well, and certain benefits may be disrupted for military service members across the nation, but also across the world. The government shutdown deadline is in 2 days. All signs point to us getting into a prolonged government shutdown, as right now the White House does not plan on negotiating with Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate, and instead plans on continuing to fight for this clean continuing resolution. A similar one was passed earlier this year, but the only difference is right now, at the end of September, subsidies for the Affordable Care Act will expire unless Congress extends them. Republicans don't want to extend them, Democrats do. If they expire, health insurance premiums for those on the Affordable Care Act may rise up to 75%. So expect higher health care premiums if the subsidies are not extended, and right now all signs point to them expiring. That's all the news this afternoon. I will provide you more updates as we get them, but it is a very dark day in America right now, and I will see you potentially this evening, but likely in the morning for another update, so stay tuned.
Hello and good morning. So in today's episode of As the White Hood Turns, it's a family affair. It's a family affair. So, y'all know Don Jr., his daughter, she just turned 18 recently, and she has launched a clothing line. And where is she selling that clothing line from? I give y'all a couple of guesses. The White Hood. So she is marketing this clothing line. Now, all I'm here to say is, when them Obama children got into college, MAGA lost their mind. That girl, that oldest Obama girl, literally changed her name so that she could work professionally in the arts. She changed her name so that MAGA and people like that. I'm not saying that's the only reason she changed her name, but she wanted to do it on her own and not profit from her family name. All I can say is, he's a con artist. He gave birth to con artists, and them con artists gave birth to other con artists. They keeping all that shit in the family. Now, I will not be purchasing one of her sweatshirts or whatever the hell else it is she over there selling. But the Hatch Act, the Logan Act, all these different things that are supposed to prevent people and family members from profiting off the presidency have gone out the window. And where's MAGA? Nowhere to be found, because you know what's going to happen? They're going to be right over there buying them t-shirts and sweatshirts or whatever the hell that child's selling. Okay. Just remember that. History will not look kindly on these people. Okay, bye.
Donald Trump just issued quite possibly his most suppressive executive order yet, and it is targeting you and me. In spite of it being named something that, sounds good, like countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence, which if it was true would be targeting right-wing groups, since according to the FBI, they commit almost all of the political violence in the USA, it is in fact going after anyone who dares criticize Donald Trump. It starts off with a bunch of propaganda about Charlie Kirk, about the alleged 2 assassination attempts against Trump himself. And I would just like to point out for the record here, all 3 of those people are right-wing actors who come from mega families and have donated to the Republican Party. It talks about Luigi's assassination of a senior healthcare executive, which wasn't political, and about the riots in Los Angeles and Portland. And I would just like to point out here again that Donald Trump used footage from 2020, 5 years ago, from riots in Portland as an excuse to declare war on Portland and send the military there to be used against American citizens. It goes on to claim that these incidents were not isolated events and they did not emerge organically, and instead they were a culmination of sophisticated organized campaigns. And that these campaigns are organized in personal meetings, social media, and even educational institutions. Which again just plays into their whole keep people uneducated and vilify post-secondary education, or maybe even high school, because homeschooling's where it's at. So what are the behaviors considered domestic terrorism according to this executive order? Well, they include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity. Support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, race, and gender, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. So essentially, anyone who's not a Christian nationalist is now a domestic terrorist, according to Donald Trump's executive order. And now he's saying the United States requires a national strategy to investigate and disrupt these networks, entities, and organizations before they result in political violent acts. So thought crime is now a thing in the United States. The Attorney General shall issue specific guidance that ensures domestic terrorism priorities include politically motivated terrorist attacks such as organized doxing campaigns, swatting, rioting, looting, trespassing, assault, destruction of property, threats of violence, and civil disorder. So yeah, doxing people, trespass, civil disorder is now considered a domestic terrorist incident in the United States. That means any protests against Donald Trump are now considered to be domestic terrorism. This is full-blown authoritarianism, and it is blatantly unconstitutional. So here, I'm going to remind you, if you serve in like the U.S. military, U.S. law enforcement, U.S. government, you took an oath to uphold the Constitution against both foreign and domestic threats. Donald Trump is a domestic threat to the Constitution.
I can't think of anyone else who deserves to get bullied more than Stephen Miller, Donald Trump's deputy chief of staff, who is essentially spearheading a lot of the most extreme policy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Donald Trump supports it and signs off on it, but all reporting shows that Trump is rather old and resigned. I mean, he's not really a policy-heavy dude. So Stephen Miller is the one who is rather policy-heavy. He's not a dumb guy. He's a smart dude who is also quite evil in his ways. And he's getting bullied this week, not only by Twitter at large, but also Gavin Newsom has taken a special interest in Stephen Miller, and it's exactly what we need. I feel like Governor Newsom is really good at sensing what the American people need to hear at one point, and I've needed to hear some Stephen Miller hate from a top government official ever since Terry Moran got fired for saying something simple about him. So before I play this clip, let me run you through a few funny things that have happened from Governor Newsom and against Stephen Miller. Governor Newsom's press office posted, quote, "As previously mentioned, we are giving serious thought to taking away Stephen Miller's California residency. He is not a great American and is, in my opinion, incapable of being so. GCN." And it's a photo of Voldemort from Harry Potter. I mean, I kind of see it. I think I see it right there. And then Governor Newsom's press office made a lot of noise by tweeting out in all caps, "Stephen Miller is a fascist." This got 7.4 million views because Stephen Miller then quoted it and said, "Why do you think they posted this?" All the Trump supporters in the replies were saying, because they want you killed, because they're violent, because leftists are crazy. But no, Governor Newsom clarified. Governor Newsom said, because you're a fascist. You see it at the bottom. So Stephen Miller says, why do you think they posted this? It's literally that simple. It's because you're a fascist. Another Trump supporter said, this is a death threat. He's calling for his followers to assassinate Stephen Miller. Dude, Trump uses the word fascist all the time. Trump says way crazier things. He says the Democratic Party is like the party of evil. And Micah points out, saying someone has an ideology that they obviously have is not a death threat. Like Stephen Miller is genuinely actually a fascist, and I can prove that by playing simple clips of him. Or what about this? Stephen Miller tweeted out just a few days ago, just yesterday, on September 26th, "We are witnessing domestic terrorist sedition against the federal government. The JTTF has been dispatched by the Attorney General. All necessary resources will be utilized." It says on August 26th, Stephen Miller said the Democratic Party was a domestic extremist organization. On September 25th, he said Newsom calling Trump's administration authoritarian was, quote, inciting violence and terrorism. Yesterday, he announced Trump's EO, countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. Today, he says we are, quote, witnessing domestic terrorist sedition against the federal government. He keeps going back and forth between being the terrorist and saying that